I think we are on. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. In Quebec, in Montreal, Quebec, where it is morning, it is April 21st and it is snowing. I hope that you are having better spring weather wherever you are. Concordia University is located on unceded Indigenous lands. The Gengyungahaga Nation is recognized as the custodian of these lands and waters on which we gather today. Yoyaga, Montreal is historically known as a gathering place for many First Nations. Today, it is home to a diverse population of Indigenous and other peoples. We respect the continued connections with the past, present, and future in our ongoing relationships with Indigenous and other peoples within the Montreal community. I'm delighted to welcome you all to the 15th International Karl Palani Conference on the role of the state in the post-COVID 21st century, our first ever online conference. Paradoxically, the executive committee of the Palani Institute first began to discuss the need to hold a hybrid international conference more than a year ago as a first commitment by the Institute to reduce international travel. Little did we know that an entirely online event would be our only option. Little did we know that our lives would be upended by a pandemic for more than a year now and likely to continue for the next few months. The role of the state has transformed dramatically this last year with massive government spending on public health, subsidies to workers and businesses forced to temporarily suspend activities or in many cases to shut down, and on economic stimulus measures. In countries like the US and Canada, recent budgets and recovery plans are targeting care, investing in childcare, social services, education, health, in social infrastructure as distinct from bricks and mortar. While this does not go far enough, these actions are reversing decades of savage cuts to social spending. President Biden's $1.9 trillion economic recovery plan and this week's federal budget in Canada, which led to the following headline in a major Canadian newspaper, and I quote, "With one budget, Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland has overturned 3 decades of political orthodoxy," end quote. This would have been unimaginable pre-COVID, and it certainly would have had no hope of being passed in either the United States or Canada. But this is certainly not universal. Repressive regimes have tightened their grips on societies, in some cases even denying the urgency of COVID. In the global south, the virus reinforces inequalities and the inability of governments to act. Vaccines are currently unavailable in 130 countries, a humanitarian disgrace. Internationally, the competitive race for vaccines is calling for collective action and global vaccine solidarity. Last week, numerous Nobel laureates and world leaders signed a letter urging the WTO to transform vaccines currently protected by intellectual property rights and controlled by big pharma into a global public good. Also on the international agenda and spearheaded by the US is a call for a minimal global tax on large corporations, abolishing tax havens and all other forms of tax evasion and avoidance. Indeed, these are hopeful signs, but the verdict is out and many questions remain, not the least of which is the absence of democracy in many parts of the world, fragmented, inadequate, and contradictory responses to the climate crisis, deepening racialized inequality, food insecurity, a migration and refugee crisis. Cities and regions were recognized as key to a just transition pre-COVID. Will this be undermined by re-centralization of the state? As social movements and civil society initiatives gain ground, will they be forced to return to old ways, lobbying central governments for support? Or will they continue on a growing trend in many parts of the world to design collaborative arrangements with local, regional, and national governments? As we live through a societal crisis, a global social dislocation, if we borrow from Palani, what can we expect in the future beyond current urgent responses to the pandemic? Spending the way out of the crisis, while critical, is insufficient without accompanying progressive political agendas worldwide, without greater international solidarity, and without the active participation of civil society. The aftermath of the 2008-2009 financial crisis was business as usual. This is no longer possible. It will not be tolerated. These are only some of the issues that will be raised over the next 4 days by participants from all over the world, representing numerous disciplines in the social sciences and humanities, and also representing civil society, drawing upon the work, the vision, and the influence of Karl Polanyi. There are numerous people we wish to thank, and I'd like to begin with the members of the Karl Polanyi Institute Executive Committee. Thank you to Fred Bloch, Michele Congiani, Gareth Dale, Jérôme Maucourant, Kari Polanyi Levitt, Danielle Saleh, Klaus Thomas Berger, Paula Valderrama. My deepest thanks to my Concordia colleagues and the members of the local organizing committee, Beverly Best, Mathieu Charbonneau, Chris Hurl, Anna Gomez, Norma Rantisi, Danielle Saleh. We wish to thank the various institutions and departments for their financial support. The Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council, the Center for Research on Social Innovation, CRISE, Université du Québec à Montréal, the following programs and departments at Concordia University: Aid to Research-Related Events, Office of the Vice President, Research and Graduate Studies, the Center for Interdisciplinary Studies in Society and Culture, the School of Community and Public Affairs, the Department of Sociology and Anthropology, the Department of Geography, Planning, and the Environment. Very special thanks to Stéphanie Croteau, Events Coordinator, and her colleagues at Hospitality Services, to Jean-François Martin, Jean O'Neill, Alex Page, and their colleagues at Technical Services. Thank you to the student assistants, Cataline Campo, Carlos Velasquez, Modze Babagoli, and Antonio Kleber Gomez. Thank you, Anna Hunt, for your advice on educational technology and knowledge mobilization. I wish to pay special tribute to my colleague and my dear friend, Kari Polanyi Levitt, Professor Emerita, McGill University, and Honorary President of the Karl Polanyi Institute of Political Economy. Professor Polanyi Levitt, Kari, will be 98 years old in June. And while she is unable to physically participate, as in all our previous international conferences, our conversations underlie all the themes of this conference. Despite the constraints of COVID and her health, Kari's insights, her suggestions, her questions are at the heart of this 15th International Gathering. She is with us today by phone, thanks to Jason Toney, her remarkable assistant, who has combined high-tech and low-tech so that Kari could participate. Thank you, Kari, for your inspiration, your solidarity, your collaboration, and for your indefatigable intellectual energy. Thank you, Jason, for being by Kari's side and for making it possible for her to actively participate. My final thanks goes to Anna Gomez, for whom there are really no words to express what she has contributed to this event and to the life of the Institute. Anna, all of you have been in touch with Anna, who has navigated this complex online world with ease and has worked tirelessly with me and the technical team for many months. Thank you, Anna, for your hard work, for your dedication, for your boundless skills, your generosity, and mostly thank you for always being in such good humor. I just want to remind you all that the sessions of this conference, the entire conference, will be recorded and will be available within 1 week for a period of 90 days for all who have registered. Also want to remind you that there is a video that will be available every day from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., a video that was made by a graduate student, Christopher Millett, on a fascinating research project that he has been engaged in with us on insights into the reception of Karl Palani. Please have a look at this marvelous video. It is only 5 minutes long and available all day long. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce Dr. Graham Carr, President and Vice-Chancellor, Concordia University. Graham has supported the Karl Palani Institute over the years, and especially during the recent transfer of ownership of the Palani archive by Kari Polani Levitt to the University Library, and in assuring the capacity of the Institute to continue to expand its work. Thank you, Graham, for your ongoing collaboration and commitment to the Institute over all these years. I now turn the screen over to you, Graham Carr. Welcome, Graham.
Thanks. Merci, Margie. Bienvenue à toutes et à tous. Yes, indeed, it is snowing in Montreal in the third week of April. Everything is possible. I just want to say how pleased I am to be part of the opening of this conference. The University Concordia is very proud to host the Palani Institute, and as Margie just mentioned, we're also extraordinarily proud to be the repository through our library of the entire Karl Palani archive, which was donated, as Margie said, by Kari Levitt. Kari, I hope you are indeed listening. I think Kari and I met for the first time back in the early 1980s when I'd arrived at Concordia, and I met Margie at the School of Community and Public Affairs, and Kari was a frequent visitor at that time. And it was in those early meetings with Kari and Margie that the idea of creating the Institute was hatched and finally had its inception in 1988. So I guess I've had the privilege of being close to the Institute really from the outset in one way or another. And I have to say that one of the most attractive things about the Institute is how emblematic it is of the mission, and I think that the mindset, the outlook of Concordia, the ethos of our university. Preserving Polanyi's intellectual legacy, fostering debate on development strategies, whether at the local or the global level. Those are activities that are very consistent with who we are as a community-minded, engaged institution that is also one of the most international universities in Canada. And Polanyi's ideas have gained a lot of popularity in recent decades, thanks to many of you who are participating in this conference. And that's because they're kind of timeless, aren't they? They're always relevant, but perhaps never more so than today. We are living through one of the most disruptive moments in contemporary history as a result of the pandemic. And I guess the question remains to be seen for the world at large, whether or not we will have the courage and determination to undertake a great transformation to address the social and economic inequalities, the challenges to access to health, the repercussions for sustainability that the COVID pandemic have made more graphically apparent. If any group knows how to examine closely the ways in which our systems, our political systems, our economic systems, our institutions express our human values, I'm sure it's you who are participating in this conference today. So I want to thank you on behalf of the university for your scholarship in aid of society, and obviously for your contribution to making this conference a success as well. And before closing, I also want to thank the members of the other Polanyi Institutes in Seoul, in Budapest, in Vienna, for collaborating so well to put this conference together. Merci encore. Thank you again for being here, wherever here is, but for being together virtually. And I wish you a bon congrès.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Graham. I'm really delighted and very proud to have you with us. And yes, we go back a very long way. And so you do recall the early days of the Institute and how it got started and the frequency of Kari at our university, and how delighted she was when we got the green light to go ahead. So thank you for your ongoing support. I'll always be knocking at your door, as you know. That's not going to stop. It now gives me great pleasure. This is bittersweet, actually. I'm honored to read the opening remarks by our honorary president and our great friend, Kari Palani Levitt, also Professor Emerita, McGill University. And bittersweet in that I wish that her ability to access technology would have permitted her to read these remarks to you herself, but I will go ahead and thank you, Kari, for giving me this privilege. So these are Kari's remarks. When asked to compose introductory remarks, my thoughts went to our last conference. As I was walking from the cloakroom to the conference room at Concordia University, I passed through a dense crowd of people bouncing from one to the other. As I went along, I discovered many friends and greeted each of them with a hug and a kiss. It seemed to me that our conference was more like a family reunion than your typical academic conference. I believe I said as much in my opening remarks then. My initial disappointment that we cannot welcome you in person this year should be set again aside by my gratitude for the technology we are using to organize this conference. Virtual participation saved us the considerable expense of transporting people long distances to attend in person. As a result, the program has been much enriched by having several keynote speakers. Given the many time zones involved, this was a considerable task. Our thanks are due to the work done by Ana Gomez and many others. We did not think it was reasonable for anybody to participate in this conference after 11 at night or before 8 in the morning. Many thanks to those who did that important work. We all hope to soon witness the end of the coronavirus pandemic. This little creature we call a virus has forced us to learn social distancing. All of our friends in the education sector, from kindergarten to university, have faced the problem of teaching students online, which deprives us of an essential aspect of teaching, the person-to-person interaction between teacher and student. This is true for all stages of education. Indeed, what we wish to achieve in tertiary education, which is the most relevant to our conference, is precisely the opposite of social distancing. Perhaps we can call it social coherence, or the togetherness of a group who have gathered to learn and discuss ideas. The objective here is the creation of an environment in which individuals are free to ask questions and express opinions, which can be discussed by the entire group. This is ideally what happens during an academic conference. It is a form of community building. In this case, a community of scholars concerned with applying the lessons of Karl Palani to the 21st century. Although we hope that our lives will return to something we think of as normal, we cannot close the file on this virus so long as any persons remain unable to access the vaccine because the government of their country does not have the financial resources to provide it. The World Health Organization must compare the efficacy, safety, and cost of the vaccines which have been produced. Based on this comparison, the supply of vaccines should be given to impoverished countries, financed by the contributions of the more prosperous countries of the United Nations. We cannot be satisfied that we have responded responsibly to the COVID-19 crisis until all of humanity has been extended the right to adequate public health care and the opportunity to vaccinate against this virus. As we approach a world in which the governments take responsibility for the public education system, I believe we have another responsibility related to education about infectious diseases and this virus in particular. What is it? How does it differ from a bacterium? How did it come into being? What does it feed off? Reliable information should be available to the public education authorities of all countries. Our knowledge about the virus as a form of life should become as general as common knowledge about simple forms of life, like an amoeba or bacteria. We should be as familiar with the conditions which give rise to viruses and take seriously the policies necessary to prevent them. The threat of infectious disease and superbugs should be a part of the fight against the existential challenge of our deteriorating environment, including climate change. We have made progress in establishing Karl Palani societies in Budapest and in Vienna and in Seoul. In the past year, our colleagues in Budapest have been able to negotiate with Corvinus University to appoint a senior and junior Karl Palani professor. The university agreed to cover half the cost of this appointment. The other half will need to be raised by well-wishing individuals. The missing half of the cost for the first 3 years is somewhat in excess of 50,000 euros. If we can raise the rest of the funds, the appointment will begin next autumn. Thank you to those who have already contributed. In the past, before we had Palani institutes or societies, our institute would alternate the location of the conference between our home base in Montreal at Concordia and another place from year to year. The program was constructed in discussion between Montreal and the other location. In 2005, we held a conference in Istanbul, which ended with the unforgettable social cruise on the Bosphorus Strait, which connects the Mediterranean with the Black Sea. We remember Giovanni Arrighi's invaluable contributions to discussions in Turkey, although he was not in good health. Following the event, he left for Switzerland on vacation with his wife, Beverly Silver, where he passed away shortly after. We also mourn the loss of Eugenia Correa. She was an inspiration to her many colleagues and friends around the world. She worked with her younger colleagues on translating my book, From the Great Transformation to the Great Financialization, into Spanish, which was serialized first in the UNAM journal Ola Financiera and subsequently published as a book by Fondo de Cultura Económica. Her fields of expertise were public finance and the informal sector. Eugenia attended our last conference here at Concordia, and I will add that she was going to participate in this conference as well until her untimely passing. In addition to Budapest, Vienna, Istanbul, there were very successful conferences held in Mexico City, Paris, Seoul, Buenos Aires, Milan, and Lyon. We still have not hosted conferences in the United Kingdom, Russia, or any of the republics of the old USSR, Scandinavia, Brazil, Spain, the Caribbean, and Latin America, other than Mexico and Argentina. I hope that in the future we can change that with the help of our friends and important publishing contacts. So once again, welcome to the 15th Karl Palani International Conference, organized in cooperation with the Karl Palani Institute Asia in Seoul and the International Karl Palani Society in Vienna and the Karl Palani Research Center Global Studies in Budapest. We extend our greetings to Andreas Novy and Brigitte Aulenbacher, the president and vice president of the society, as well as the director of the Palani Research Center for Global Studies, Attila Melegh, and to Professor Wan-Kun Song, chair of the research committee of the Karl Palani Institute Asia in Seoul. A warm welcome is due also to many scholars who have accepted our invitations to speak, including those delivering keynote addresses, Robert Kuttner, Anne Pettifor, Quinn Slobodian, and Sheila Foster. Finally, thank you to all of the participants from around the world who are joining us today. Thank you, Kari. I hope you are listening. Thank you for your kind words. Thank you, as I said earlier, for your continued inspiration and your tireless intellectual energy. I'd also like to just note in passing, and perhaps not use that term, but also like to acknowledge and pay tribute to two other important scholars in Canada, friends of the Karl Palani Institute and colleagues of many of us who also sadly left us this year, and that is Mel Watkins from the University of Toronto and Leo Panich from York University in Toronto as well. It is now with great pleasure that I introduce the directors and research coordinators of our 3 sister institutes dedicated to the work and influence of Karl Palani. They are Professor Andreas Novy, Director, International Karl Palani Society, and Professor, Institute for Multi-Level Governance and Development, WU Vienna University of Economics, Vienna. Andreas.
Yeah, dear Kari, dear Marci, dear organizers, dear participants. We, the International Karl Palani Society, are very happy to be part of this large and increasing network of Palani institutions and scholars. We are very grateful to our sister institute in Montreal, the Karl Palani Institute of Political Economy at Concordia University, and especially to you, Anna, Marci, and Kari. The International Karl Palani Society was founded with the explicit objective to enrich the Palani community by aiming at 2 objectives. First, to better understand the current transformations by using the rich analytical framework of Karl Palani. And second, to bring these debates to a broader audience beyond university and to enrich strategy debates by activists, engaged citizens, trade unions, social movements, public authorities, and parties. This 15th International Karl Palani Conference on the role of the state in the post-COVID 21st century is a very pertinent topic. There is no doubt that the state is back. This is good news as the crisis of neoliberalism deepens. It is bad news as Orban, Erdogan, and Bolsonaro show a new type of reactionary right-wing authoritarianism that is becoming a threat to free societies. This conference will be an opportunity to clarify our understanding of the current situation and to overcome a widespread but simplistic reading of Karl Palani. He never simplified his political economic analysis to a process of bad marketization and good social protection, of disembedding capitalist markets forces and embedding counter movements by civil society and the state. It is true that Palani was aware of the necessity of state institutions to make rights effective. Just read chapter 21 of The Great Transformation. However, having been aware of the danger of fascism for long, Palani saw, and we perceive it today, that protection against marketization can lead to ugly forms of authoritarianism, resistance to global capital, can reinforce xenophobic and racist nationalism. And civic movements against pandemic policies can organize in the name of individual freedom. In all these political forms, the state can play a horrible role. The International Karl Palani Society is hosted in Vienna. It owes its foundation in 2018 to Kari Polanyi Levitt, born in Red Vienna in 1923 and currently honorary president of IKPS as well. It is the legacy of Red Vienna, a local state empowered by social movements and trade unions, that remains an inspiration for rethinking the state in the 21st century. Its rich and diverse social ecological infrastructure, be it social housing, public swimming halls, and municipal companies, will have to be important cornerstones for sustainable and solidaristic societies in the coming decades. Therefore, I wish us all 4 days rich of discussions and joint learnings. And I end with a short announcement that we have also set up a Vienna Karl Palani visiting professorship, and we have the honor in 2 weeks from now to inaugurate it with Nancy Fraser. This is a joint initiative of 3 Vienna universities and the city of Vienna. And in times of COVID, one of the advantages, you all will have the possibility of join this event on May 4th. So all the best for all of us in the coming days.
Thank you very much, Andreas. I'd now like to introduce Professor Attila Melegh, Director, Karl Palani Research Center for Global Social Studies at Corvinus University in Budapest, and Professor, Institute of Sociology and Social Policy at Corvinus in Budapest. Attila.
Yes, indeed, it's a great pleasure to congratulate for this excellent 15th conference. It's an extreme pleasure to do it in such a company, what Professor Kari Polanyi Levitt, Professor Mendell, President Carr, Professor Novy, and Professor von Keon-Song mean to, and all the rest of the people all around. It's a great pleasure. And before I give some introductory thoughts, let me just do two obligations. Generally, we congratulate and thanks to the workers, thanks to the organizers at the end of the conference. I think seeing this dramatic situation which has been evolving globally and the very difficult circumstances in which we are working now all around the world, I really would like to sincerely congratulate to the organizing committee for doing an excellent job, being so helpful in getting people around and organizing this massive event. So I would like to congratulate in advance. The second obligation is, of course, a very sad one. It's related to COVID-19. I think we have to stop for a second because we, as I hope we all agree, we as organic intellectuals, we can never pass by the suffering of a large section of humanity. This COVID infection has taken away so many people who could be still with us, who could still do their own social duties, but they couldn't make it, so they are not with us anymore. Colleagues, friends, family members have been lost. So that's one. The second major suffering which is happening all around globally are those people who are suffering because of the consequences of the lockdowns and government actions all around the world. Those people who cannot make ends meet, those people who suffer because they actually have no salary or no income for the next day. So for a second, I will stop, and I think we should think for all those people who are suffering very hard at the moment, and we should be with them. After this short break, let me continue the thinking what the others, all the previous speakers have already started. Our organization, which is the Karl Polanyi Center of Global Social Studies at Corvinus University, was founded in 2014 with a very explicit mission, not only just to promote Polanyian thinking, but to promote any type of a critical global thinking, which is important to build something new. Why is it so important to us? Why this mission is so dear to us? We are coming from Eastern Europe, all those who have started this initiative. And Eastern Europe has been warned by Karl Polanyi himself. In 1945, he wrote blatantly clearly that in case a free market system would have been introduced into Eastern Europe, that would have led to, as he put it, crazy nationalisms. Ironically, I would say we are so faithful to one of our greatest thinkers ever, is that we are doing this. We are practicing and unfortunately proving that how rightful he was when he was saying this. So in the early 1990s, we introduced the free market system, which free market system in 2 decades led to crazy nationalisms, led to a change in the political systems. This does not mean that this crisis within Eastern Europe is not one aspect of a global crisis, because I think that all the other states who are not showing this, they are also in a crisis because of this new wave of marketization. Nonetheless, let me have a good news and a bad news out of this. And I think we should really think about both when we are trying to understand the current development. What is the good side? The rise of nationalism of any type is a clear indication historically that there is a need for intervention into a free market system, and this intervention cannot be delayed. In that sense, any kind of such a movement it's a double movement, and we have to take this absolutely very seriously. The bad sign, the bad news is that, of course, this intervention is extremely problematic, what has been emerging. Why? There are two major things which are very important. First of all, it is ineffective from the point of view of building such institutionalized social solidarity, which could be progressive, which could be inclusive. Instead of that, it is creating some kind of a free market system with state intervention into that, most importantly in an authoritarian and disciplinary manner. The second, this type of intervention is misleading historically. How do we know this? We don't know this because instead of solving the current global tensions around massive problems like migration, it is actually not showing a way out of the contradiction, but is actually making the contradictions and the tensions even deeper. What does it mean to us? It means to us that at this moment, we have to do massive work, even we have to intensify our work in order to come up with new models. I think one of the biggest challenges in front of us, that globally speaking, not new models are really circulating, which can be taken by the people. For that purpose, and this is the very last sentence I would like to mention, for that purpose, our center has initiated also a conference which is coming at the end of June, and then this conference is going to be with the title of Non-Capitalist Societies with a Mixed Economy, very much in a Polanyian spirit, namely taking very seriously one of the most important warnings of Karl Polanyi, that there is no balanced social system without a counterbalancing system of forms of integration like market, state, redistribution, reciprocity, and so on. So with these words, I would like to welcome once again everybody, and it's a great pleasure to be with you, and I wish a big, big success, what you actually deserve. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Attila. I'd like to now introduce Professor Won Kon-song, Chair of the Research Committee, Karl Palani Institute Asia in Seoul, South Korea, and Director of the Research Institute on Social Economy and Professor, Department of Economics, Gyeongsang National University in Jinju, Republic of Korea. Professor Song, welcome.
Do you hear me? Yeah. Yeah, hello everyone. Nice to meet you all online. My name is Won Kon-song, Research Chair of Polanyi Institute Asia in Seoul, Korea. Thank you for warm-heartedly welcome by Kari, Mendell, and all others. It is an infinite honor to be invited to this opening session. I am very proud of it. And thank you for inviting us to the 15th International Palani Conference. Most of all, I would like to give a special thanks to the conference secretariat, especially to Professor Mendell for allowing the presentation, even though deadline has passed, and for taking care of the presentation time for Korean presenters. As you may know, Korea is renowned for its K-quarantine system. It is under the control of government. But Korea is one of the harshest countries for ordinary people with impetuous competition in the free market out of control. We think it is a kind of irony. The extinction of local cities and communities, income and asset inequalities, various gaps and imbalances at various aspects, and high youth unemployment rate has made a crisis that cannot be solved by ordinary measures or central government policies. I think it is in this context that the Korean government is supporting and encouraging the social economy sector. But the social economy sector in Korea is still weak and has a strong tendency to be led by the central government. On the other hand, the local government and communities have not many available resources under the concentration structure toward the capital area. Such a serious and vicious socio-economic situation is worsening due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. The pandemic is both the result and the cause of the uncontrolled free market economy that we are witnessing now. The COVID-19 pandemic is calling for a radical transformation of the current socio-economic system, and we must match for it. I'm believing we all agree that the ideas and concept of Karl Palani can provide useful tools for solving these pressing problems and for preparing the new transformations. Karl Palani greatly emphasized the region as a unit to regain our daily livelihood by maintaining social relations and restoring the community. And he called the social tendency to maintain and protect itself against the commodity market economy double movement. And also one important axis of this double movement should be local or regional. With the capitalist market economy at the nation state level, various efforts to restore communities at the village or city level are reviving under the name of localism. Actually, I don't have much time, 5 minutes. So it would be better to talk about two things of interest. The one is about our project with the Global Social Economic Forum in Seoul and Polanyi Institute in Canada. And the other is about the promotion. First, with the Polanyi Institute of Political Economy and Concordia University in Canada, we are now planning a Korean Polanyi archive project to translate some meaningful and important materials from the Karl Palani archive into Korean. Through this project, we expect to spread the idea of Karl Palani and to strengthen the theoretical foundations of the social and solidarity economy in Korea. In addition, we will be able to reinterpret the usefulness of Polanyi's idea in various ways. Second, in September or October this year, we are planning an international forum under the theme of Karl Palani moment in Korea and Asia. This forum is designed to share a successful case of social and solidarity economy in Asian countries and to strengthen the network between Polanyi researchers in Korea and other Asian countries and regions. Currently, it is expected that non-face-to-face is inevitable, but we are very looking forward to improvement of COVID-19 situation and taking it offline. We ask for your interest, support, and encouragement. Once again, thank you for inviting me and our institute. And we hope that this conference will be successful, even in non-face-to-face situation. We also expect this conference would be a chance to share valuable ideas and discussions based on Karl Palani. I wish you all good health. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Song, Professor Novy, Professor Melegh. Thank you, Graham Carr. Thank you, Kari. We have to now leap, press a button and go to the opening session, the first plenary. I just want to wish everyone the best, wish you all an excellent conference. I am very stimulated by the three presentations by the directors of our sister institutes. We have a lot of collaboration and important work ahead, hopefully face-to-face or hybrid. And now, and please don't forget to have a look at the 5-minute video anytime in the next 4 days. welcome everyone. I'm delighted that this is showtime. We are ready to roll. Enjoy, participate, enter questions and comments in the Q&A and chat boxes, and I will see you over the course of the next 4 days. So please travel to the first section of the first plenary. Okay, bye everyone. Good night, Professor Song, and good evening, Andreas and Attila, and good morning, everyone. Get your coffee and fuel so that you can sit and enjoy the rest of the day. Okay, bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thanks so much.